Have you ever wondered why the problems of RNG, loot, and build balancing are taking so long to fix? Why it's been 3 months since launch, and yet these issues are so prominent? Well, you're gonna find the answer to that right here in this video. What's up you guys, Gone Wrong Zong here. So recently a pretty good, albeit lengthy article about the future of the game and the general direction the devs are heading was produced by Stefan Tortillo from Kotaku. I'll include a link in the description below. And man, this is a good write-up. A lot to read in between the lines with. They interviewed Yannick, this bearded guy that's appeared on a few State of the Games, if you haven't seen him yet. I really actually needed to make this video to share some of the key points with you, which I think are pretty damn important regarding the future of the game, and also in regards to your own decision of whether you should still be investing more time into this game. And here's the key takeaway from the entire interview. There are quite a few takeaways, but I wanted to share this one first and foremost. The devs knew. They knew that all this shit was going to happen. All this crap about the lackluster endgame experience, RNG, builds being extremely limited, skills just being outright broken, and so on. They knew. When we had the very positive feedback at launch, we knew there would be a moment where the honeymoon would be over and people would start scratching beneath the surface. They knew that a lot of their systems were still broken, especially at World Tier 5. They knew that this game was launching, essentially, with a very unbalanced endgame, with systems that are largely untested, and with only a rough idea of whether each aspect would work out or not. And they knew that it would be sooner rather than later that they were gonna get flack for it. Here's another quote from Yannick on the issue. We knew all along that no matter how well we designed and prepared our game, the way people play it might be different and they will exhaust it in a way we cannot simulate in testing. So they will find things that need to be improved. Now, I don't really know how to feel about this admission. Of course, yes, players will find things that cannot be simulated in testing, and devs will have to fix things along the way. But considering the absolute scale of problems that the game was and still is plagued with, core issues, crappy RNG, a complete lack of tangible progression at the endgame, a frustrating recalibration system, a primitive inventory management system, gun types that are completely useless, skills being just rubbish, and a complete lack of build diversity. All of which are fundamental aspects of looter games that could have been easily learned and adapted from other successful games like Diablo 3 2.0 or Path of Exile. It really makes me think. On one hand, such a perspective of saying that they'll never be able to cover everything is honestly a pretty realistic way of looking at it. Every online game launches in the best state that it can by its launch deadline, and tries to balance and produce content along the way, ideally at the same speed that the majority of players are consuming the content at. But on the other hand, won't an attitude like this breed arrogance and incompetence? Most certainly so, if it's not handled carefully. With a mentality like this, it's easy to fall into the trap of something like, it's fine that we release the game in a broken state. That's how it works anyway. The player base will give us feedback of where we went wrong, and then we'll improve the game later on down the line. Did we essentially pay for an open beta? Is this why it's taking so damn long to just address the problems? And why similar problems from the first game are being repeated all over again, for whatever asinine reason, frustrating all of us to no end? If I were to take Yannick's statement at face value, we most certainly did. We paid for a game that was knowingly incomplete and untested, especially at the endgame. There was no public test server for it. We were the testers, us, the paying customers. And that's why the game dropped off so hard at the endgame, and why there's still a plethora of problems plaguing it to this day. Here's more evidence that supports this unfortunate conclusion. When the question was posed to Yannick about everyone running the same builds in the raid, his reply was, "We're kind of working on different timelines when it comes to addressing the balancing and producing content like the raid. Even if we know there's sometimes an optimum way to beat, that doesn't mean we should hold on to that content until the balancing is perfect." Well, that is a nice sentiment, giving the players content in a timely fashion. But it also tragically highlights the same mentality that we just discussed about. The devs know the game is unbalanced as hell. They know. They're not oblivious to this. But they're going to release new content anyway. because as we already went through, it seems okay within the overall philosophy to release semi-broken content, because they can't test everything, and they'll have to rely on live feedback from the players. I'm gonna quote verbatim the same statement I made just a couple minutes ago concerning the launch of the game, and you guys can judge if it applies the same to the launch of the raid too. It's fine that we release the game in a broken state. That's how it works anyway. The player base will give us feedback of where we went wrong, and then we'll improve the game later on down the line. And for the raid, I can now say something eerily similar. It's fine that we released the raid with broken build diversity, because we weren't prioritizing balance. It's fully expected that players were going to complain about this, and it's on them to feedback to us where we went wrong after we released the content. Do you guys see some sad similarities here? Did we pay the full price for an open beta that ended up in us, the player base, having to tolerate a very broken endgame for months? And then, in a raid patch, TU3, that has still not addressed any of the core problems of the game, but is still released anyway? And now, TU4, which released a new specialization, but still did not address any of the core problems? Why do you guys think the minigun as a specialization weapon is still a complete joke? I already foresaw this during the PTS. I made an entire video revolving around the topic, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one to give feedback about it. Is new content just being pushed out again, with other concerns being secondary? And I think it's pretty ironic that Yannick goes on to comment about this. Yannick acknowledged that it's not always easy and not exactly fun to see, for example, Rage in the live chat of the game's weekly development stream, in which he often appears. It's something we learn to develop a wall against. The irony of this. Newsflash, these so-called ragey comments, some of them are downright toxic, yes, but the majority of them, they are directed at the core issues, and the constant frustration, week after week, towards the fact that these core issues have not yet been addressed. Releasing new content after new content is not a viable strategy to placate your fanbase, when at the end of the day, the core game itself is broken. What the hell's the point of giving me a new badass minigun when it hits like a super soaker? What's the point of giving me a new pulse skill when I still can't afford to drop my revive hive or healing cam launcher? And what's the point of giving me a tank specialization when overall tanking is obsolete in this game? I still believe, all things considered, it's always better to release a game or patch only when it's ready. It's respectful to your fanbase, and it reflects exactly what kind of gaming company you are. And believe it or not, it gets even worse. Here's something that I really want to bring to your attention. Yannick states towards the end, one thing that we're trying to keep in mind is that it's fine for people to stop playing. We're not telling them you should stay in the game forever. It's fine for them to stop as long as they are satisfied when they stop and then want to come back when something big is coming. Okay, I'm going to start with the good of this statement. In a very generic sense of video games, in general, this is a pretty realistic statement, right? It is. It's very realistic in any game for players to reach a point of burnout, stop playing the game for a while, and then come back to it. But should a Division 2 developer really be taking this stance? This isn't a single player game that has one linear playthrough and then you're done. This is a multiplayer online looter RPG. Shouldn't it be the other way around? That they want their players to be as engaged with the game as long as possible, to be as invested in the loot grind as much as possible, to have thriving clans and communities with lots of players logging in daily, and to form a die-hard fanbase around the game, as how one did eventually form around the first. All those hardcore players saying that they have thousands of hours clocked up in the first game, and can't really bring themselves to grind senselessly again in the second game due to all of its problems. Are you really okay with losing all of them to other games? You guys know Macro Style, I'm sure you do. He talks about how the game has completely burnt him out, in a way that the first game didn't. He mentioned that there's something systemically wrong with this game. Could it be attributed to this way of thinking? That it's fine if players drop off? Do the devs gather around the water cooler and go, yeah, engagement rates are down, clans are dying left, right, center, players aren't logging in anymore, but you know what? It's fine, it's all good, they're just taking a break, they'll all be back. I feel depressed just even saying what I just said. I sincerely hope that isn't what's happening, because it is a plausible reflection of this statement by Yannick. And also, the second part of this quote is the complete opposite of player satisfaction. Currently, players are not satisfied when they stop playing. It's fine for them to stop as long as they are satisfied when they stop and then want to come back when something big is coming. Players are stopping because of the opposite. Because they are frustrated, bored, and tired of waiting for the devs to fix the game. Players are not stopping because they are giving you guys a second chance. We already gave you that after the shit show of the first game, in us having to wait till patch 1.4 for things to be fixed. Players are not stopping because they're taking a healthy break. Players are stopping because they are pissed off. And that's why your weekly state of the game chats are filled with negativity. Because players are unhappy with legitimate issues that are affecting everyone in the player base. From the casual player that can't find the motivation to log in any longer, to the world first rate clear content creator who is getting absolutely burnt out. I began this video by saying, have you ever wondered why the problems of RNG, loot, and build balance are taking so long to fix? Well, I hope that I was able to give you the answer. They're taking so long because these issues are secondary. Massive's timeline prioritizes content first. Balance is secondary. Coupled with the mentality that it seems somewhat acceptable or forgivable within the company culture to release said content in a semi-broken state, because that's the best that they can do by the deadline, and they'll fix the problem sometime down the line with live player testing, and you have your current state of the game. And to top it all off, it's alright to them if you take a break from the game because of these issues. That's fine to the devs. Game's broken, take a break, go play other games and come back when it's ready. I love this game very much, and I'm still playing it very regularly, but I'm playing it and enjoying it in spite of these issues. And when they do wear me down, as they did for Macro Style, I'll be taking a break. Not because, as Yannick says, I enjoyed it and I'm looking forward to new content, but out of frustration of these problems. My own personal recommendation to you will be the same as I've always said. If you're enjoying the game, block out the online negativity and keep on playing. It's mostly how I treat the game too. The Division 2 is still a great game that I'm enjoying very much with my friends, and I've more than gotten my money's worth out of. If, however, you're feeling burnt out, my advice would be to take a break from the game. It's what the game's own developer suggests, after all. Things are going to take a while to get fixed. In the meantime, find something else you enjoy, and don't frustrate yourself with the current flaws. Leave while you have a good impression of the game, knowing that things will get fixed down the line. It's a matter of when, not if, but how long exactly it takes to fix these issues, we'll just have to see.